Welcome everybody to CARES Act Part 1. Now, boy, I never envisioned shooting a video such as this just even a month ago, but our world has been turned upside down with the coronavirus. So many people have passed away and so many businesses have gone away. It's just been devastating for so many small business owners around the country. Now, by the time you're watching this video, I can guarantee some aspect of the SBA or the Treasury Department or Congress or the White House has changed the Stimulus Act in some, or added another feature to the stimulus package in some form or fashion. To give you a little, perspective, I'm shooting this video right before the passage of the additional funds authorized under the Stimulus CARES Act. So this is CARES Act 2. I don't even know what they're going to call it. The House approved it. No, the Senate approved it, and we're waiting for the House tomorrow. So that's where I'm at in this process. But I couldn't wait any longer. I've got to shoot this and give many of you some direction and thoughts on how to approach this for yourself and for your clients and everywhere in between. Now, I do envision shooting another update to CARES Act Part 1 and CARES Act Part 2. You'll see the slides there. I have created 10 strategies as part of the CARES Act and what you might be able to implement. The first 3 are pretty generic in the sense that you may not even have a business with employees or a very robust business and still want to know about the first 3. But when we get into the next 7, there's a lot of artwork there, if you will. There's a lot of strategy involved. And I want to say this right now. Do not hyper-focus on the PPP. That has been the dialogue in all of the news for the most part, and what small business owners think is do or die. That's not actually the case. And as I get into Part 2, I will explain that better and what your options are. There's a fork in the road. Now, actually, at the end of this Part 1, I'll at least present the path and then start off Part 2 with kind of a review of that path and what the options are. Now, I'm choosing my words very carefully because it's so complicated. Now, some of you may have already watched some of my other videos. Some of you may be starting with this video. So in every video, I have the same introduction for the most part. So I'm going to take 15 or 20 seconds and so be patient because again, I'm not sure which video you're starting with. So here we go. Great books. Lots of information that I've tried to produce over the years on, it's out on, all in Amazon, on my website. I've even created a new calendar that 2021 will have one that will be pre-selling in the fall. So you may even be watching this video in the fall, which is fine. So anyway, I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this video. So be patient again with the timing of some of this. My tax and legal library, 50 plus videos, and my tax and legal webinars every month are so helpful. So this video will hopefully enhance your training as a tax professional and work with that. Next, some of you may need further consultation as a professional, getting a little help with our law firm or accounting firm. And we also have our directed IRA trust company where we help with solo 401ks. We also help you self-direct your health savings account, your Roth IRA, your traditional IRA, everything in between. So cool. And I've got a lot of videos there to help you learn more about that if you'd like. So a lot of free information that I want to get out there, that this is not just watch this video and you're done and you'll never see Mark Kohler again. I've got a weekly newsletter that's free. I usually go live on Facebook and YouTube every week on Thursday. I've got my YouTube channel with a lot of short snippet videos. This is the real deal here. This video is everything I know on these topics, so they're a lot more lengthy with the PowerPoint, of course, but you can get a little tidbit here and there on YouTube that might be helpful. And then we have a weekly podcast that we've been doing over 10 years. We rebranded it. It used to be Refresh Your Wealth. This is the new brand we're literally launching as early as tomorrow, so we're kind of excited about that. And then this is kind of fun, a Success Hotline. I've got my kids and a lot of my college students that I recommend. Success Hotline is a guy that does a little story every day. He's been doing it for 20 plus years. So fun. So Someday I'll drop that off here, but anything you can get that's helpful and free for you as an advisor, a small business owner, a professional, I want you to have it. So good stuff. All right, now be careful. Whenever I give a presentation, I want to say get the advice that you might need for you personally with a professional, and be careful. I always want to tailor make my advice to each person's situation, but this advice will definitely point you in the right direction for you as a professional or yourself. Now, the top 10 that I talked about. We're going to talk about in this video the stimulus checks, the SBA loan forbearance, and accessing retirement accounts. I've done some Facebook Lives, some podcasts, some YouTube videos, and but right here is everything I got. And I've got notes here to help me kind of come up with every piece and part that I usually get in a Q&A as well. So I'm just brain vomiting, brain dumping everything I know on these 10 items, and we're going to start with these 3 in this video. So let's get to it. Stimulus checks. As some of you are watching this video, they're just starting to go out in wire transfers. Others of you may be watching this video later in the year. When it's done, it's wiped out. The government's bankrupt on stimulus checks. Who knows where it'll be even a week from now or 10 weeks from now. So be patient. Again, if you're like, Mark, this is old news. I'm just going to give you the advice I can on this, because again, some of you may be watching this video as early as a week from now. So I want to make sure you get any help I can, any help you can get to help you personally or guide your people through this. So the numbers are pretty straightforward. $1,200 single, $2,400 married filing joint, $500 per kid. Well, then it gets complicated, right? Head of household and married filing separately go on as a single amount, and income is based off your 2018 or 2019 tax returns. So let me just tell you what I understand right now. If the IRS has your 2018 tax return and a taxpayer has not filed their 19 yet, and you qualify, you're going to get the stimulus check either wired into your bank account if they have your banking information, more on that later, or they're going to mail you a check. All right, that's cool. What happens in 2019 if you make too much and you're not allowed to get the stimulus check? That's okay. The criteria of whether you deserve it or not is actually based, this is all the guidance we've gotten through every webinar at the AICPA, Thomson Reuters, RIA, and the Treasury or the IRS as of today of this video. So again, forgive me if there's been further guidance that changes this. That's why I'll be doing an update as needed. But right now, our understanding is the actual stimulus check is based on your 2020 income. So if you got the stimulus check in 2020, you have a gangbuster year and you actually didn't deserve that check, it will be accounted for on your 2020 tax return when it's filed in 2021. So if you got the stimulus check and you weren't supposed to, based on your 2020 income, you'll be given it back. Now, the IRS has not said how they're going to do that. Is it going to be deducted or added to what you owe, or deducted from a refund if you were due a refund? That's our understanding. Now, technically, the IRS is kind of booking this stimulus check as an overpayment on your 2019 tax return. So, if you already filed your 2019 tax return and you qualified for the stimulus check, on the books of the IRS, they already did the 2019 forms. They don't want to go and redo them, and their hands are full with the Stimulus Act and SBA and everything going on. They said, you know what? We're just going to book it as an overpayment on your 2019 return. Then we're going to test whether or not you were supposed to get it based on your 2020 filing, and we'll square it up then. That's what they're saying. We're going to square it up then. Now, let's say you filed your 2019 tax return and you made too much, you don't get a stimulus check. But in 2020, you had your butt kicked and you deserve the stimulus check. Well, on your 2020 return, you're going to get it. See, again, this is according to the IRS. They're going to make it all fair and equitable on your 2020 filing in 2021. Right? I hope that made sense. So again, if you got the stimulus check and you shouldn't have, or you didn't get the stimulus check but you should have, based on your 2020 return, it'll all square up. So what does that mean for strategy now? It might mean that if you don't think you're going to deserve it based on your 2019 return, don't file yet. Keep on extension. Get your stimulus check. Then in 2020, when things sucked, you're gonna deserve it anyway. But if you hurry and file 2019, they're gonna go, oh, obviously you don't need it. You made too much money, and you really did need it, and your 2020 return would have allowed you to get it. So you've got to be a little bit strategic here. Rushing out to file for the stimulus check purposes may not be your most prudent move. Let's get that money, and maybe it's an interest-free loan from the IRS, and you're going to have to give it back once your 2020 is filed. So hopefully that wasn't gobbledygook, and you might have to listen to that again, but I think I was clear, and it's just complicated. So whether or not you deserve it, again, is all based on your 2020 return ultimately, but you might get it based on your 2019 or 2018, and then they'll square it up on the 2020. So that's the current issue with the stimulus checks or stimulus wires. So let's go there for a minute. If you, and I'm going to jump down to here, direct deposit is the fastest way you're going to get this. So if you filed your 2018 return and you mailed in a check and they don't have your banking info, they're going to mail you a stimulus check. If you filed your 2018 or 2019 and got a refund and you did direct deposit, then they've got your info and your stimulus check's going to show up in your bank account. If your bank account's changed, if your address has changed, or you want to try to update the IRS along the way, you can go to the IRS website and try to update your information. Now, even as early as last week, they were trying to update this webpage and said more's coming. So I know by the time you see this video, this information is going to probably be outdated. So what I'd recommend you do is if you want to try to get your stimulus check faster, or it got mailed to the wrong place, or you want to check the status, go to the IRS website. I know in the search window, if you type stimulus payment or stimulus check, you're going to get the most up-to-date content, at least according to the IRS, by going to their website. But I want to let you know that this is what we're hearing as of right now, and checks are, this is what the statute says, the CARES Act. You're supposed to get the money by the end of 2020. Okay. Now I know people that have already gotten it, and we're barely in the middle of April. So again, it's a crapshoot. Do the best you can. The IRS has said, don't call us. If you want to update your information, go to our website. Now here's another Q&A comment or question I get on my radio show and in webinars is, I don't have to file. I don't make enough money, or maybe I'm on Social Security. Those are two different issues. So let's go with Social Security first. If you're getting Social Security payments and it's automatically deposited to your bank account, the SSA.gov is coordinating with the IRS.gov people, and they're getting on the same page, and they're sending those stimulus checks to Social Security recipients that normally don't need to file. Also on the IRS website, they have a non-filer update info page where you can say, I normally don't file, I normally don't need to, no need to audit me, I'm poor, I don't need to file, here's my banking info. And you're supposed to be able to go there and input that and get your stimulus wire deposit or check faster. Next, we come to students, which I'm working backwards on this PowerPoint, I apologize. But now if we go working backwards through direct deposit and checks and all this, have your college kid file their own taxes. If the only way you get the $500 is for kids under age 17 or under, and they're going on the child tax credit rules. So if you make too much money, you're not going to get the 500. If you make too much money, you're not going to get the stimulus check. And I apologize, it probably goes without saying, but it shouldn't. This is a training video. The $1,200 for singles starts to phase out at $75,000, and if you're single, head of household, or married filing joint, and make more than married filing separate, again, I'm going to repeat that, married filing separate, head of household, or single, that $1,200 starts to phase out at $75,000, and it's completely gone at $99,000. And the same goes for your payment for your kids if they're 17 or under. Now, the equation for that is extremely complex. Your tax prep software will take care of it for you. If you're married filing joint, it starts to phase out at 150 grand and completely gone at 200 grand. And the same goes for the kid portion if you even qualify and they're 17 and under. Now, so that's pretty straightforward. I think any of you out there have probably seen that enough info in the news to get that. But here's where the kids in college gets complicated. On the face of it, in our CPA firm, we said, all right, if your kids are 18 or older, don't claim them. Let them claim themselves, and they'll get their $1,200. And Janae, did you get your $1,200 yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I've got my video tech in here. She's awesome. Did you file separate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she filed separately as a single. And did you give them your banking info? Or did you just put down your address? Did you remember?
I just put down my address.
You just put down your address. So Janae here, I'm not going to share her last name or her address. She is single, guys. So if you want to send me your info, I'll pass it along. But I'm just throwing that out. Now, she's going to get her check in the mail because she filed single and her parents didn't claim her. Now, here's the, and I know some of you are already freaking out that Mark Kohler is saying this, because according to the CARES Act statute, it says if you can be claimed by someone else, you're not allowed to get the stimulus check. But what people are doing, and college students are saying, my parents didn't claim me. Maybe they could, maybe they couldn't. I don't know. I'm filing my own return and my parents aren't claiming them. So they're going to get the stimulus check. I think that's really the practical situation that's taking place across America. But that's, now as I said, that was our general rule as we were talking to our clients. But here's the problem. Let's say you do have a college-age student. You do provide for more than half of their support, and you can claim them. And if you do claim them, it actually helps your tax return. And you're possibly maybe a bigger refund or less tax owed. And you may even be claiming one of the education tax credits. Woo! So now you call up, Janae's parents call her up and go, Janae, don't file. We're going to claim you because the benefit is greater than $1,200. We'll give you $1,200. Just don't file because you're going to jack up our return. They didn't call and say that, did they? So who knows? So I think some parents might be shocked and get their tax return screwed up in a potential nasty letter from the IRS with a line item audit, because if they go claim their kids go claim themselves, and they both file, and maybe they get their stimulus check before the parents file, or vice versa, I think it's going to cause a problem in the IRS computer system because they're not going to mesh, right? And whoever got the check first is almost like a race to the bank. They got their check first, the other person's screwed up. So if the kids file and get their check before the parents file, it might ruin the parents' tax return based on claiming the education credits or their kids as dependents, even though they don't get the $500. Whew, again, complicated. So everybody thinks this stimulus check thing is easy, but it's not. Getting the money, comparing adult children to the parents' return, and who should claim who, and who filed first. Now let me just throw in another wrench in the cogs here, or in the engine. I've got lots of clients that were divorced last year. So they need to get out there and file single or head of household, depending on who's got the kids. So let me give one example. I had a client, she got the kids, but has no income, and alimony wasn't taxable to her. So she wanted to get the stimulus checks, but her husband on the divorce decree was allowed to claim the kids. So he got the $500 per kid and got the stimulus package for him. She needs to file to get her at least $1,200. And I told her to do so. And the husband actually had, you would have thought that makes sense, the husband got the kids. Well, he had back student debt that was under collections. It showed up in his bank account pending IRS stimulus payment. And then the next day, it disappeared. The federal government on the student loan, Stafford loans, grabbed it because he was delinquent. So the wife's over there going, hey, I want half of the stimulus check. Well, he's like, well, I got to claim the kids, so the stimulus check is mine according to the divorce decree. Or is it? Did the divorce decree even contemplate a stimulus check? You can imagine there's some lawyers sending some nasty letters back and forth right now. But he didn't even get the money. So the wife's like, freaking, you owe me for those kids. Well, I didn't even get it. It went to my student debt. And he goes, I picked up the student debt in our divorce decree anyway. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll get my $1,200. So you can see this gets complicated, right? Janae's over there going, oh my gosh. So let me add another one here. This is interesting. So I had a client this morning. I've already communicated with their attorney twice this morning. See, I'm an accountant and a lawyer, so I get to play both worlds once in a while. So I had a client that got divorced in January, but they were still married as of the end of the year. So they filed a married filing joint tax return with 2 kids. So they would get $2,400 plus $1,000. That's $3,400. Now, the divorce decree is actually still pending the judge's signature. So my client called me up and said, I want half of that stimulus money. I said, you deserve it. Divorce is not completely final. You get half of the refund, plus you should get half of the stimulus check. So I fired off an email to the attorney, said, hey, we want half our stimulus check. That was 3 days ago. Luckily, no fight. The attorney came back and said, yeah, the husband said he got the money. Would have he volunteered that if I wouldn't have emailed? Who knows? Now, there's good wives and bad husbands and bad wives. I'm not picking sides. I just happen to be in that side in this equation. So anyway, he said, oh, yeah, I got the money. I've got a cashier's check waiting over here at the law office for her half. And I said, by the way, have we got a final return filed yet? Because I want half that refund. And that's pending in the divorce. But the stimulus check already showed up before they even filed the 19 return. Whew! So these stimulus checks can really wreak a lot of havoc in a divorce that's pending, in a divorce that occurred last year, in a person that's filing Social Security that hasn't filed a tax return, someone that owes the IRS, you're not going to get your stimulus check. Just like a student debt. The stimulus check is going to go to any prior IRS debt if the IRS has a judgment against you. Even if you're on a payment plan, they're going to grab it. Now, some of you may say, well, Mark, my client had a payment plan with the IRS and they got their stimulus check. Great. They got lucky. Maybe they ended up as an aberration in the IRS computer system. I had a client on a payment plan with the IRS and they didn't get their money. It showed that it was pending and then got sucked up. I don't know. Again, as many of you know that practice with the IRS, sometimes it's a hit or a miss when it's predicting what the IRS is going to do. I know some of you are enrolled agents, some of you are retired IRS agents, or have left the IRS and now you're a practicing CPA or an enrolled agent. You may know more than me. I get it. Again, knowing what the government is going to do on any given day can be a little unpredictable. But I'm just alerting you as to the issues. So we're still on topic number 1 of the CARES Act. The stimulus checks can create a lot of unique situations. So I hope that this information was helpful. I tried to cover all the weird Q&A questions I get. The last one is mailing of checks. I've told clients if your mailing address has changed, I would immediately file for an updated address form with the IRS. You can go to the IRS website to do that. You may want to alert the people living at your prior address and say, hey, if you see a check come from the IRS, that's mine. You might want to threaten them, go, it's fraud and felony. If you touch it, just forward it to me or I'll come pick it up. I don't know. Another best way to alert the IRS as to your current address is to file. File your 2019 tax return and have your address on the tax return that's accurate. That's what Janae did. Now, if possible, I want you to file electronically and put your banking information in with the IRS. Then you might get the check a little faster. You should have talked to me. See, you're jacked up. Do you even pay attention during these videos? All right, anyway. Okay, so that is topic number one. Now, if we had Q&A going on in this video, I bet you someone would have a question that I didn't answer, and I apologize. That's why we have our weekly podcast. We have our weekly live on YouTube and Facebook, and I'm out there. So hopefully we can be a resource to you either as a client or on some of those free forums and try to help you out. I recommend to all my clients, and I'll leave it at this in this video, if you need a consult, even if you're a professional, buy a half hour or an hour of time from one of my tax lawyers or CPAs. And even as a professional, I have clients do that because they need a little extra support. They're flying solo, they don't have a practice with partners, and they don't know who to turn to. Well, we'd like to be there for you if you need us. All right, now let's go to SBA loan forbearance. That is topic number 2 under the CARES